Hello, everyone. We are back once again for another tech talk. Basically, it's kind of a podcast thing where we come together and chat about the stuff from the week and also go through your comments when it comes to the video. So if you have any comments or any thoughts, make sure to stick them in the description below. Or not the description, sorry, the comment section, whether it's like a discussion point, a question, or even just how you're feeling when it comes to the updates, because we have had the updates, obviously the Build-A-Bear event's coming, there's just a ton of different things which are going on right now. In the background, we're going to be completing a special task, and then also at the same time, we're going to be spading the mommy and maybe the impetuoso, so we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it goes all right. But yeah, we live stream them on Twitch, and then also, obviously we upload them to the YouTube channel. Still working out when to actually put it up. I think in general we'll probably stick it up at a different time. Maybe the premiere thing. I don't know. I'm experimenting. Nice to see you, Lucky Strike. Hopefully you're doing all right today. Hopefully life is good. Once again, thank you to good old Taki-chan for doing the wonderful timestamps. It's fantastic to see, as always, a beautiful gesture of kindness. Then we have the first one. We have Speed Trees. Hello, Tech. No question for this week. Just wanted to say that I tried Majesty and had an absolute blast. Some of the most fun I've had in gaming within last year at least. Yeah, Majesty is fantastic. And also, just to let you know, there is a Majesty 2. Majesty 2 is a lot more, I suppose you class it as like whimsical or like comical. Like it's a lot more vibrant. It's a lot less dark, and that's what I kind of liked about the first one. Like it had like this Ardania is annihilated, and there's vampires everywhere. There's ghouls everywhere. There's dragons. Darkness has come over the land. The goblin armies are coming, right? Where like Majesty 2 is more like, oh, the elves have just done something silly again. Hoo hoo hoo. Better go help him or better go kill him. Like it it's a little bit it's a little bit crazy. But yeah, you should definitely check them out. They go on discount a lot. Which would be really good. And I should play them again. Like those types of games are always fun. I was thinking Land of the Vikings is actually getting a 1.0 update pretty soon. So they actually added in a new system for their armies, and they also added in a new system when it comes to management. So we're probably going to go back to that. They also added in a new map too. What I'm trying to do is get the battle pass done in War Thunder as soon as I can. So that opens up a little bit of space to be able to play other stuff to have a decent time. And yeah, we're doing really well. We're like nearly 120, so we're well on track for having that like period of like a week or two where I can kind of just chill and play some other stuff. How about a skin package edition? Make your own skins for your squadron, country, state, jail cell. I always thought what would be nice is if you know how like CCs get insignias, so you can see here like the decal we have here. I thought it'd be really cool if like a squadron, if your squadron has been around for X amount of time and it's had like X amount of activity and all of this, maybe they could get an emblem, not just like necessarily like a paid for thing, but if you're in that squadron for like a percentage period of time, maybe you could get access to it and you could, rep it. Or at the same time, maybe like a flag for the naval stuff nowadays, or even maybe some pendants on tanks and stuff like that. People have talked about that for a while. The idea of having like a flag on like on the aerials of the tanks. You see that quite a lot in movies, and you see that a lot in like other things. I always remember like good old Battle of the Bulge, the kind of fake history movie. I always remember the setup for it, where you have the pendants on the Tiger 2, which is an M47. Can we talk about how much of a money grab the Vidar is? A 7.7 with Gen 3 thermals, laser rangefinder, top-down shells, and 155 round in 6, 7, 8, 7 games. I mean, I was playing with the Vidar. Well, not the Vidar, but I was playing the BTR yesterday, and I didn't really see too many games that were taken over by Vidars. I'm sure that it's happening, but yeah, if it is doing too well, then of course it'll go up in BR. So far, it hasn't gone up in BR, which, you know, I think the vehicle is one of those that's really annoying to get killed by, because it simulates basically what artillery is supposed to do, which is the whole, like, smash people from miles away. So when it's able to do that, people get really pissed at it, because it's annoying as hell. And, yeah, it kind of shows why top-down mechanics are just not a good idea at all. So yeah, we'll see how the Vidar goes. I honestly think it's getting a little bit overhyped right now. Especially just playing against it like all of yesterday and also the day before. Like I saw people like 3 or 4 manning squads in it, and the problem with it is it can't push forward. So if you take like the zones early and you take all the defensive positions early, there's no way Vidar can really dig you out. And if there's like a decent amount of them on a team, they just can't do anything because they can't push. So, like, we'll see what happens with it. I know it's a hot button topic right now, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up in BR, because the combination of the 3 factors, you know, the crazy HE, the loader, and then also the laser rangefinder, are really gonna hammer it. Like I talked about it previously, right? I talked about it previously. They added everything to this vehicle to make it function, right? So as an SBH, it, you know, we haven't had a SBH in War Thunder that has actually been given all of the crazy mechanics. They usually have like 1, maybe 2 at most, but most of them have like inherent weaknesses. The Vidar's only real weakness is it doesn't get AP, and also it's huge, which, you know, it doesn't really matter too much. So for me, I'm still waiting to see Vidar's takeover games, at least in the games that I'm playing, because I'm seeing some like pretty high-end squadrons. Like we ran into a 2-stack and a 3-stack yesterday from 2 very high-end squadrons, right? And they just got hammered because we weren't on an open, massive Fields of Poland map. We were on like Sinai. So yeah, we'll see what goes on. I would honestly still take most vehicles over it at 7-7, but that's just because I've spaded all the SBHs and I know our RNG that they are. I saw a few rhinos the other day. They were doing pretty fun. That was quite fun. But yeah, if it's doing like when I think about like how all of these like vehicles have gone in the past, like a lot of these vehicles that were completely broken at launch. Thank you for the raid, Double Ace Gamer. That's very kind of you. Hopefully you had a good stream. Hopefully everything went well. We're just doing the tech talk right now. But yeah, so whenever I saw crazy broken vehicles get added to the game, they usually go up in BR super quickly. So for example, the Harrier GR1, it was bumped up a bracket within a day, I think. And then the SU-25, it was also bumped up in a bracket after a day. And then the Puma was bumped up after 3 days, and then it was bumped up again after like half a week. So like, or maybe 2 weeks, because it was started out that the Puma bloody started out at 8.3 for God's sake. So yeah, that was a massive oversight. So if it is that the Vidar is just taking over stuff, which I honestly don't think it is, and also people making the argument for, oh well, they just want people to buy the vehicle and everything like that, and you know, they want people to buy it so they make a ton of money. Like, once again, we had the Harrier GR1. That's a premium. That was taking over games. Like, it was actually destroying games, right? And they put it up in BR after a day. The SU-25, which was destroying games. The SU-25K as well. You know, both premiums, right? They were both put up after like a day. So this idea that they don't put up vehicles when they're broken, if they're premiums, like some vehicles should be higher BR even though they are premiums, and maybe it's because they're premiums that's the case, but new release vehicles get put up in BR super quickly if they need to. They can't change the BR too much. EU laws are a limiter. What are you talking about? What? What is that? The Puma went from the 8.3 to 10.0. I've read they won't change premium tier, but BR seems fine for EU law. What are you... What the hell are you guys talking about? Because you paid for it? They fundamentally changed the Italian M60. They removed this bloody stabilizer. What has this got to do? Oh my god, this is this stuff again where people just... Who the hell said about EU fucking law? What? But they kept the original M60, no? No, they did. No, they didn't. Not in the Italian tech tree. They didn't make a new vehicle. They made it worse after people bought it. Where was the court cases? Where was anything like that? What? You can't just say it's EU law. What? Like, do you have like a link or anything? They make critical errors there and compensated people. They have to be able to change. Oops, game-breaking stuff. But no, I mean, I don't understand this idea that it's against the EU law to change BRs. What? That just completely forgets everything that has happened in the history of War Thunder. Didn't they give the people that already bought it a discount on their 40? Why would that matter? But also at the same time, the Harrier GR1 went up by 2 BR brackets. The SU-25 has gone up by 3 BR brackets. K SU-25. You can also technically buy anything in War Thunder, by the way. There were some laws about changing a product too much after payment would go against the EU laws. Okay, cool. Let me know when it actually gets enforced. What? I look forward to the court cases that will definitely happen again. Right. Whoever's brought that up in a video needs their head checked. What the hell is that, man? God damn. Right, so we have the next one. Then we have Hazard Jacko. I have a lot of respect for you for so openly sharing your upbringing. Doesn't sound like an easy one. It makes me reflect on my own life a lot, guessing we're the same age. I mean, probably, like I'm 30, so I know I look older, but that's just how it goes. I've looked this age since I was like 22. Good evening, Constable Rod, nice to see you. But the what's the word? Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open about talking about my past, in most regards. Obviously, if it comes to like personal relationships I've had with specific people, and also names and things like that, I'm not hugely into chatting about that stuff, but I think people grow from life experiences, and I also think it's very important for people to understand where a lot of my mindsets come from and where I as a person come from. Like, I had to grow up very quickly when it came to life. Because of not just home life stuff, but also because of, you know, imagine if you're 17 and a half and then you move to a different country and nothing like is planned for you and you have to do everything yourself. Like that fundamentally changes who you are as a person, and it massively changed who I was. Like it made me grow up very, very quickly, in order to like do stuff like that, right? Hey Death Avil, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. The T72A or M1's very good, yeah. It's a lot of fun. Just wait until you get the good round. So, I think it's important to share life experiences, because first of all, everybody goes through like crap, right? So, it's good to understand that everybody has their own battles in life. Nobody ever really comes out of anything without at least some scars in some ways. And also, it shows that it is possible to persevere and push forward. If things go wrong, that's okay, because you can improve them, you know, in the you can improve them in like the future, right? Like not everything has to lead to a desperate place. Like a lot of the time when it comes to online stuff, I've known a bunch of people for years now, you know, like 3, 4, 5, even more years. And the ups and downs that people generally go through when it comes to, you know, just general life and stuff, especially if I know them personally, like, it just kind of tells me that in the end, as long as you don't, you know, fall apart at any point, you can generally do all right. And I think that's something which is incredibly important, right? At the end of the day. I don't mind, like, talking about a bunch of my other experiences and stuff, but I think it'll require the right questions. Then we have Mean Greenie. Hi, Tech. Hello. I think I saw in a previous Tech Talk a Google Doc sheet which showed the rank changes, etc., e.g. 13-2 for the update. Can you let us know where you found it? Thanks, and keep up the Tech Talks to make the Monday morning workday bearable. Fair enough. But, yeah, so they're actually on the forums, and I think they actually posted them on the changelog. I'll see if I can find it so I can stick it in the description of the video. But basically, yeah, it's just whenever they do like these econ changes, they always leave like they always leave a massive amount of stuff. I think I just massively missed that. Yeah, they just make like a huge like spreadsheet and then just like kind of stick it in. I'm pretty sure it's in like the main changelog. If not, it's in the roadmap one, which they did. But it's usually stuff like that is first available on the forums, and then sometimes they make a news post about it, and then sometimes they make like other things, like little pieces of like media around like the Twitter stuff, or maybe it gets posted on the Reddit. But usually the source of this stuff is always going to start off when it comes to official changes is the forums, because the forums is like the most controlled area when it comes to Gaijin, so they're able to like post stuff when they want to and stuff like that. Like even like the devlog stuff, right? Like devlogs do get posted on like the main page of the website, but also at the same time they get posted on the forums at the same time, and usually it's like a community manager that does it. So one of the things, if you are like really interested in getting information for War Thunder, like, you know, obviously I make videos on stuff and things, but one of the things I know some people do is they follow the community managers. So people like Esmin, people like Stoner, people like Scarpa. There's a few other ones now that they've been promoted, like Magazine, people like that. And generally, like, if you just, like, follow those guys, you'll know what's coming because they'll just talk about it at the end of the day. But let's see. The best I can find on the fly is the new directive on digital content and digital services gives consumers the right to a remedy when digital content or a digital service is faulty, regardless of whether they paid for it or only provided personal data. M60 not having a stab as advertised could be considered faulty, I suppose. Yeah, but they didn't offer refunds, and they haven't been taken to court, so it honestly doesn't matter. So, guessing there wasn't a case. This is the Mauler, the AM1. It's a very good strike aircraft ground pounder that I'm playing. Hey, I'll go back to base, but I'll find the link. Because it should actually just be in like the Sons of Attila update thing. Roadmap. Oh, it might be in the roadmap one actually. Yeah, so right, here you go. Right, we'll go big screen on this. So on the roadmap, following the roadmap, Sons of Attila roadmap one. So if you scroll down, you can actually go with the table with summarized changes and table with specific details, and then you can do that on all of them, right? So this is all the Google Docs about like all the specific changes that they did when it comes to RP, SL, and all that stuff. So yeah, so it's on the roadmap one. It was in a different area previously, but that's the one which, you know, makes it easier to find because they're all in the same place. Right, there we go. Oh, that song stuck in my head. It's like one of the Post Malone songs for some reason. Hey, Manuel, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Let's see. Right, next one. So we have TK221. Dun, 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 dun. Would be nice to have updated roundel insignias since there's lots of modern vehicles. Yeah, I think no, I agree with that. Like the more modern roundels, and then also just a bring back of the monthly decals. Where'd they go? Nobody knows. They've nearly been gone for a year now. They just haven't turned up. What's going on? Does anybody know? Nobody? No? Sad. So yeah, that's that's a problem. It would be nice to have those back, and it would be nice if they also improved, like, you know, visual models of like the uniforms and stuff like that. And I feel like when it comes to those things, they just happen over time, right? Like every like little thing or every little idea kind of gets pushed forward. And, you know, you'll get like incremental changes on those things of like the next updates. But yeah, nice to see you, Zoltan. Hopefully you're doing well, brother. And yeah, the some of the best decals were in the weekly ones. Like there's still one, there's still a bunch of them that I used today. Like there's a Japanese one which is just 2 lines, so you can make you can literally make it so your vehicle has what's the word? You can literally make it so your vehicle has, it looks like it has gun marks on it, which is pretty cool. Nice to see you, Bob. Hopefully you're doing alright. But think about already this year when it comes to that stuff, right? So we've got ourselves new voice lines, full new voice lines for ground, full new voice lines for naval, which is just nuts. You've also got, I believe, those like new character models. You got updated cockpits for certain things. You got a crazy amount of stuff. Like, it's just been nuts. And hopefully they continue to add more stuff like that. Like, quality of life changes are just really good, right? Like, the only quality of life change that they did this update, which is a little bit skew with, is the trees. Where they're just, you know, they're a bit all over the place. Hey, Hijackins, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. So then we have emergency broadcast system. You mentioned having an issue with having to Alt-Tab to move the questions around while playing War Thunder. This was actually caused by a bug fixed the helicopters that while playing them... let's see. Let's just take off. There we go. It would select a different window unintentionally. Since then, the cursor has been hard-locked to the window of the game. Really hoping they fix this, as it's really annoying having to Alt-Tab while just in hangar when before you didn't have to. Yeah, so basically, like what you used to be able to do with the cursor is if you have multi-screens, you could just go over to the other one. But yeah, they hard-locked it because this happened, it was probably about 6 months ago. It was a bug fix, right? So it was to fix the cursor going nuts. So it didn't just happen in helicopters, it also happened in ground, and also aviation. Because it used to happen me a metric ton. Like, so for me, I hold C a lot, right? So I mainly actually fly with my keyboard. I don't actually fly. I do minor adjustments with the mouse, but mostly I actually fly with the keyboard. And what that meant is, or what that means is I can actually look around and see stuff while flying standardly. So it's easier for me to like set up for targets because I don't have to be like, oh, where's he? Oh, he's over there. So now we've lost a bunch of speed. But during that time, like it was a period of, it must have been like 1 or 2 major updates. They just broke it. So every so often, I have no idea what actually caused it, but every so often your cursor would just disappear to another screen. And then you would have to click back on it, and then you'd have to go back into it, and then sometimes it just didn't work again. So there would be times where I would be like aiming with a ground vehicle, and I'd shoot, and then nothing would happen because my cursor isn't on the game. And it was really annoying. And they fixed it, but the fix means that this happens when I Alt-Tab was a full thing. So now everything's just frozen. But my solution is this, which is just don't have anything full screened on top of it. Which sucks, because it means that, you know, I have to do things slightly differently, but at the end of the day, that was a really, really annoying bug. And it didn't exist before whatever they added, but it existed then, you know? Hey, Scimitar, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. I'm so far back in time watching the Onbu City thing from your YouTube. The Grand Tech Republic grew where Tegistan fell. That was recorded like last year. So the second YouTube channel stuff is actually showing stuff I think from 2022 right now. There's videos which are scheduled there until 2024 September. And I actually do have to schedule a bunch of stuff for it. So it should actually be into 2025, which is, you know, it's been quite fun to do that. It's nice to have kind of like a history thing going forward. Half your screen's not working, my brain also not. Could you please repeat the name of the plane? AM1, the Muller. Right, let's see. Then the next thing, the Lingering Soul, 4301. Hey there, Tech. Hello! I'd like to see the MB-339. Family and the AMX Internationals, the A11B, A11T. A11B is a ground strike aircraft and the T is the trainer. Think they would fit for strike aircraft for Italy. Love the videos. Keep up the good work. If I remember correctly, all these are trainers, aren't they? And I remember looking at these because some of them got passed. Or some similar aircraft got passed. Yeah, they're all the trainers. Right, okay. So, the Aramachi MB-339 is the one that the guy's talking about, by the way. So, these are vehicles that will get added, right? Just like a bunch of other trainers, like, think about, like, the NAT, right? The trainer NAT will get added. We literally have just added, you know, the two-seater F-100F, which was about to be added in the next event, right? Like, that was first designed as a trainer and also used as a ground attack thing. So, yeah, we're going to get more of these trainer aircraft. The issue I have with the trainer aircraft, or trainer aircraft which were also used for, like, light ground attack, it's mixing two ideas which we've found to be completely busted in the game. And that is the idea of having a weak flight performance but very powerful weaponry. Yeah, the SK-60 as well, which follows this at the same time. Same with the Saab. But if you have a look at stuff like the Su-25, or you have a look at stuff like the A-10, or you have a look at stuff even like the Hunters, like the F-6 back in the day with the SRAMs, you have vehicles which have poor flight performance, and generally, if it's just like a gun-on-gun fight, will not be able to do anything in the game, right? They just won't be able to touch anything. But you just strap ridiculous weapons to them, so then they take over the game. And then what happens is they get to a point, BR-wise, where stuff has counters to those weapons, so then they become useless again. You know? So what that basically means is you can't ever functionally balance them. So stuff like the A-10, for example, stuff like the Su-25 are just going to be impossible to balance. And you've actually seen this, right? So the standard Su-25s, like the standard one and then the K when they came in, they were busted, and then they had to raise their BR very quickly. So they raised it to, what was it, like 9.7? And then from there, what ended up happening was they had to raise them again. Mainly, like, they decompressed the BRs of aviation, right? So they raised them again. But then, because of the Su-25 and the A-10, think about all of those vehicles that got decreased in BR, right? So think about the Lightning F6, the two F-104s, the MiG-19 PT, the MiG-19S. All of these used to be 9.7-10.0 vehicles, and now they're 9.3, and it is specifically because of those vehicles taking over the matchmaker, and also with 10.3 being insanely strong. So now, you have Su-25s, and you have A-10s, and they are, like, I suppose they're okay, but they're pretty useless. Like, they're not very, like, when they added in the Su-25T and the Su-39, since they added them, have you heard anything about them? No, because they're no good. Because they're now at a level where their flight performance is actually really being taken into account, and their weaponry cannot catch up with it. Even with the Su-25BM, or whatever it's called. Like that one. Even with that one, you have a situation where it's not really that expensive on the market. Nobody's really hyped about it. Nobody's really talking about it, because all those vehicles have got to the point where they've been given such crazy weapons, but their flight performance has not improved, and their defenses really haven't improved. I mean, you got the IRCM, but it doesn't matter. So, yeah, you just don't ever hear about them, because they're dead. They're dead in the water. So you have these two massive extremes with these vehicles, where they're either doing really well because of the weapons they have on board and because nobody has the counter, or they get to a point where the counters start coming in, and then they're just fundamentally useless, and there is only a very small area where they're actually useful, and it's usually in ground forces. So, when you have a look at stuff like the MB-339, right, I see the same thing. So, it's got, its maximum speed is 900 kilometers an hour, right? 900 kilometers an hour, which isn't great. It's got one Viper engine, right? It's pretty much just a light aircraft at the end of the day. And guess what it gets? Magics. So it's a subsonic vehicle, like very similar to stuff like the Étendard, but slower than the Étendard, right? And only has access to no actual like internal weapons. So you can only bring along like external weapons. So if you want gun pods, or if you want specific things, you got to bring them along. So you can bring like magics and then like 12.7s or magics and 30mm, and you have a machine which cannot go very fast and will lose a lot of speed in the turn. So you're basically setting up another vehicle to be exactly like the Su-25 was, or the A-10 when it came in. So it's either too good or terrible. And we've talked about it for years. Whenever the A-10 was mentioned, whenever the Su-25 was mentioned, one of the things that I brought up was like, this is just going to happen, right? Like, you're just going to have a scenario where it's going to be boom or bust. Just like how a lot of helicopters are. There's going to be very specific areas where they work well when their counters don't exist. And then when the counters come in, they're just going to get murked. That's what happens with a lot of helicopters, apart from the lower tier stuff, because they just don't have any counters, and then the extremely high tier stuff, because they have so many defensive mechanisms behind them. So you just have a situation where you just have this like middle part of helicopters that just can't do anything, like when the counters are available. So for me, these vehicles are exactly the same. And I know people want to see them because, you know, they want CAS options for, you know, the general nations that use them. But you've just got to look at the history. You just got to look at the history of War Thunder and also what has happened with vehicles which are designed like this. And it ain't pretty. So I'm generally against the additions because of that. Will they get added? Yeah, of course they'll get added, because everything gets added. We've seen over the last like year or two, they'll just add whatever. Like at this point, they'll just add stuff, and then they'll worry about the balancing later on, right? Which they did an interview at the start of January and actually talked about this fact, where they're finding it very hard at the highest echelon of the game to actually balance it, because there's so much stuff there, and also it constantly changes. Well, the book stops at the Gaijin guys at that point, right? Like, the book stops at them. They're the ones who are adding this stuff. They're the ones who are pushing it in. If you believe this is an issue, then maybe it might be worth maybe changing tact a little bit. I don't know. Like, but yeah. So, will they get added? Yes. Will they cause issues? Oh, hell yes. Just like everything else has. Can they limit the weapons to try and improve that? Oh, hell yes. What will this cause? It will cause a lot of people, just like it does with other machines, constantly complaining about the fact that they don't have their correct weapons. And that will never change, and it will be very annoying to listen to going forward. Just like pretty much all of the other debates around weaponry and around stuff like that have been annoying for many years. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Alright, so the next one that we have is from Away Yuval Beggar. Hey Tech, hi. Some friends of mine migrated from World of Tanks to War Thunder and immediately fell into bigger pen equals bigger shell trap, for obvious reasons. I got them to understand the basics, the difference between shells to World of Tanks. But I'm having a hard time trying to explain to them the details like shell fragmentation, etc. The things not shown in the shell description card thing. And someone that learns through experience, so it's challenging to make lazy oafs understand things I learned for trying. Do you remember making a video detailing the differences between shells and the more subtle details that describe what to look for in a good shell? Because I swear I saw a video like that, but I don't know if it was on your channel. Nonetheless, they liked the game already, so they'll have to learn from my advice, like we all did, by experience in the game. Thanks again for the entertainment and the work you put into making vids. And speaking about your channel, happy to say that the past 2 weeks have been flooded with your vids, so the algorithm is finally doing its job. Also, I can't wait to get my hands on the Hungarian vehicles. Yeah, I don't really understand the algorithm stuff or how any of that stuff works. So, you know, I just kind of plod along and just make my own stuff. It's been pretty fun though. The last month has been taxing because of the update cycle, but I feel good coming out of it. Is probably the best way of putting it. Like, I'm just happy to have like the live content here so we can play some of the new stuff, and also just I'm a bit peeved that the events just like turned up out of nowhere. That's kind of annoying, but everything else feels good. So I mean, the main thing to point towards is of course what they added, like the modification thing, right? That modification window shows you what happens when shells penetrate targets. And it can kind of show you visually what happens when you know, vehicles get penetrated. Like usually, obviously, especially at low tier, you want a balance between penetration and explosive mass. But usually you want more penetration than explosive mass because the amount of damage that you do after penetrating, as long as there's a little bit of explosive mass, you'll be fine. There is actually a channel out there that did do a very in-depth video on all of the shells and how they work in War Thunder. And then the Demar formula changes came in and the Lanzodimad changes came in. So the video had to be remade, and I'm pretty sure it did. But that is basically why I don't make those videos. Because stuff changes constantly. Like a lot of people have asked me, "Hey, Holy Rune, nice to see you." A lot of people ask me to do like videos on specific maps and specific positions to take, and you know what to use in certain scenarios, or like how do you do special tasks, or what daily tasks do you prioritize. And sometimes I do these videos, but because of how War Thunder works, like you can make a video like that. Right, let's say I did like a video on Normandy, right? And how do I play Normandy? What's the things that I look for in Normandy, and what positions do I go to? Because of the changes that they made to the map, I completely have to change how I play Normandy. You know, there's still some power positions, you know, like the next to the church, like the statue thing. But you can't use the beach anymore. It's literally impossible because they moved the spawns. And the south of the map, like the way to move around there's changed, and also like different parts have changed. So if I made, let's say, how to play certain map videos, like even 6 months ago or 3 months ago, they're completely out of date. And that's the same thing with shells, right? Like a lot of shells don't change that much over time. But what has been changing over a period of time is first of all volumetric shells, but also volumetric armor. More and more vehicles in the game are getting volumetric armor. So where you used to be able to shoot stuff, you just can no longer shoot them anymore. So if you make a guide on how to like pen certain targets, like for example the 279, right? So the 279, if you didn't know from the last changelog, they completely buffed the vehicle. Like they actually changed the hull armor and gave it more armor because of how it works. The 279, you know, that thing that is just dominating the A7 bracket. You know, they gave it more bloody armor. So if you have a look at that and you're a person like me, and you know maybe you've done, because I remember like, when I was talking about the 279 and how much of an issue it was and how it was just absolutely annihilating pretty much everything around it, right? I got so many comments which were like, just shoot it in the lower glacis, man. Like it's so easy to do. Just shoot it in that lower glacis, like where is it? Just shoot it. It's so easy to kill. Just shoot like the small weak spot that it has, like on the front, which you can definitely see when people have bushes. Like just shoot here and hope that you have APHE, or just like shoot here. Oh, you can't do that anymore. Huh. They changed it. Crazy. So if I'd made a video on how to kill this behemoth, right? If I made a video on how to be able to deal with this, you just can't anymore. Because they buffed the armor. So everything I said like a month ago would just be completely wrong. So that's why like doing videos on shell dynamics or doing videos on how different shells work or how they move around, it's very difficult for me to do because I'm worried about the fact that somebody will watch it in like 2 years time and everything will be completely different. Like you can see here, like if you hover over it, shows you obviously what happens with the AP and then what happens with the HE, right? Depending on what the shell looks like. Same with like the APDS. So it gives you a general idea of how this stuff works, which is generally like a better idea. Just break the barrel. Yeah, with my crew on the 279, I repair that barrel in 10 seconds. And it's not an ace crew. So you can't, and also has a ridiculous reverse. So that you break the barrel, sounds good. I'll just repair and then shoot you. Like that thing is just nuts. But that's pretty much the only way you can do it. And like as another example, Naval, right? So with Naval, which we're going to be playing today because I wanna research out the mummy. With Naval, they completely changed how damage model works. Like with Naval, because now they added this like mechanic where if you get hit so much in a specific area, you take like basically permanent damage. So is it now better to spam HE at people? Is APHE still kind of the way to go? Is it better to just do solid AP? It's really impossible to know until you extensively test these things. And I will remind people that every single update this year, they have fundamentally changed how naval damage models work. Every single one. Go look at the changelogs. It's nuts. They do it every single time. So if I make a video of like how to deal with like larger ships, first of all, I'll get a bunch of people from like a year ago who like complain about it because they'll tell me I'm giving wrong information because of the fact that when they played a year ago, it was completely different. And, you know, you needed to shoot the things in these areas. And then you'll get a bunch of people who go, oh, well, I don't play that way, so it's wrong, right? And then it's just completely superfluous within 3 months. So that's the issue with doing stuff like that. And it is a consideration that I have in my head when it comes to making like tips videos or tricks videos or anything like that. This stuff changes so much, right? It just changes so much over time. and it can be very hard to keep up with it. If I could legitimately, with some of the ideas in War Thunder, make the same video every like 2 months, saying pretty much the same ideas, but in slightly different ways, and also like apply it to the current situation, like especially if BR changes happen, if economy changes happen, if there's an update. Those are 3 massive factors that affect all of these things. So it really is hard to like try and nail down what is important to talk about. So then we have the Type 10. Hey TEC, I do find it weird how the Type 10 is getting another prototype while the Type 90 does not have one, but either way it's still a good lineup, tank, also maybe a J10 jet for China, like the early model. Also, it's fun seeing people panic going against the whole reproduction. Panic! Yeah, I really enjoyed the whole reproduction back in the day when it had that crazy reverse speed where you could you could basically shoot and then run away. It's still an incredibly powerful tank, and the thing that's super nice about it is if you pen a target, the target just goes pop. Super satisfying vehicle. Super satisfying vehicle, the whole reproduction to play. Controversial, of course, because of its fake nature, but you know, I think that ship has sailed a long time ago. And I feel like at some point now, we really should have an honest discussion, or at least Gaijin should have an honest discussion about what is their general criteria for adding vehicles which are fake and not. And I know they're just going to make up, well, they're not going to make up things, but they're going to say in specific ways, which is always going to amount to, we add them because we believe it will help with the balance of the game. And if certain vehicles are added, it's because there isn't any real life equivalents, right? Like I'm 100%, I can 100% guarantee that would be the answer, but it would just be nice to hear it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things. So then, let's see. It is weird that that we haven't got a Type 90 prototype. There is a bunch of weird vehicles they can add in there for Japan. You know, I always enjoy that. I don't know if it's the STC. It might be the STC, but it's the one where they were testing the L7 on the box. Like they basically had like a Trax and then a box and then an L7 on it, and it was so funny seeing people want that in the game, and I kind of want it in the game because it just looks ridiculous. But let's not talk about ridiculous, you know, the stuff is. Hey Baduzin, nice to see you. I just noticed since one of the player names back, I added them back like about a week and a half ago, because I sent an email to Twitch asking them because the reason why I had them off, because I was worried that because we've already had some kind of quite racy names over the last few days because of obviously the screw up with the filter that Gaijin has in. But I emailed Twitch and I basically asked them, like, so you have this policy, which is people have to take a proactive stance on being able to like remove these things from their stream, and since the ability is there, like, you know, should I use this? Is it okay not to use this? And I got an answer from one of the guys over there, and they basically said, don't worry about it. Like it's okay because it's something that is out of your control. So that was the main thing that I was worried about, because as I said, like there has been instances previously when it comes to games, like Call of Duty, for example, where streamers have like just let people just say all types of like heinous stuff over like microphones, or if they're in like Discords and people just start saying crazy stuff, and then they get like, you know, banned for it or thingied for it. So for me, it was just to make sure that wasn't the case. I got the answer, so now they're back on. Because I want the names on. I don't want it like looking like I'm just facing bots. Like it is kind of nice to see it, and sometimes people do have some pretty fun names. But most, you know, all you need is just one bad egg, right? As always. But yeah, hopefully Gaijin can improve their filter system, especially after they added the new setup, but who knows. But yeah, there's a ton of pretty cool stuff that they can add for Japan. Obviously, a lot of the hype or chat is around Korea right now for Japan, mainly because Korea has a lot of not just Eastern vehicles, but Western-inspired vehicles. If you have a look at a lot of the South Korean stuff, like goddamn, there's so much Soviet stuff in there, and also there's so many things which are very heavily based off American ideas. So, even though they're unique to Korea, I feel like they're probably not gonna add too much difference in playstyle, but at least it would be nice to see them. I'm looking forward to them. Is the Japanese ship any good in the Warbond shop? Which one is it? So then we have Abigail. Let's see what Abigail says. TEC the Submariner is locked in. You have to pick which class I will play. Know that if you pick one I don't prefer, I will not forget this declaration of war. Which class would you choose from and why? Out of Warrior, Archer, or Sage? I mean, the classic stereotypical thing for females is that they're archers, right? Like because it's not frontline combat, and usually that's the case. The other thing is like sages, right? So, you know, I suppose like you could be a sage. Usually a witch is the way to go. It probably would have been better if I picked you to be the sorcerer at the end of the day. That would have worked the best. Because of, you know, the whole like priestess of crypta thing that we were discussing the other day. I mean, I'd probably go with the archer. Pretty much, it's the bog standard decision. Robina Hood. At the end of the day. The other one. Let's see. The sage one does seem pretty fun, but a bit stereotypical with the whole nurse thing. It's the Yubari. The Yubari's awful. It's a light cruiser with the weapon. I call the Yubari the gypsy machine. Basically because it has it's a Garfunkel, right? Or it's a Barnfunkel, whatever you want to call it. It's a kerfuffle. It has a bunch of weapons on it, and none of them really marry together. So it's just a bunch of random stuff which has just come together to be a vehicle. And the issue with that is it means that you can't ever really get a ton of damage on the enemy, or you can't really do anything with it. You're stuck in this perpetual state of not really having enough to do anything. So, and then you die. So it's generally not great. I could imagine Abby as a warrior smashing everyone with cake. I mean, that's true. She could be resident chef to keep the party going. Like she could be like the base camp leader. Hey Secretech, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Hopefully life's good. And yeah, doing well. We're just playing the mommy. And then doing the tech talk stuff. Then we have Red Fox. Very apt with the name. Hey Tech, hello. I want to know if you were the guy responsible for adding tech trees into the game, actual tech trees, not just sub trees, what would you add? And how would you add Israel into the game if it wasn't added yet? Would you do it like War Thunder did or different? I would have not added Israel into War Thunder how Gaijin has decided to. I understand the idea that there isn't really a place for Israel in War Thunder if it isn't an independent nation, because you have so many different vehicles from so many different places. But what I would have done is I would have split them up into their own separate lines and put them in their desired tech trees. So the French tech tree does not need any Israel vehicles, because all the Israeli vehicles in Israel are just copies of, you know, French ones. There's no actual difference between them, right? And the ones that they can get going forward would still just be copies of ones we have in the game, unless you're talking about that one with the SA-18 gun. Don't even bother. Not interested. How about that? So you have all of that, so that would be sorted. All of the American-inspired vehicles, I would obviously just stick in the American tech tree, because why not? And then at the same time, all of the Soviet vehicles, like the Terrans, I would just stick in the Soviet tech tree. And I think that would be fair for pretty much everybody. That would mean that you'd have 2 new lines in the setup. I suppose you could stick the British vehicles in the British tree. So instead of just having an independent tree of Israel, you would have a split-off tree for 3 separate nations. And for all of the nations which you don't do split-off trees for Israel, instead what you end up doing is you just put in camos for those vehicles to have Israeli camos on them. Like, that's all. That to me would be the way to go, because right now, I mean, you see the consequences of the action. Do you ever see Israel in the game? You see maybe like one person every so often, you know, not really doing a lot, and then after that, I mean, you just don't see anything else. So it's not exactly a great moment for Israel in the game. Like, it's nice to see them represented, but I just feel like they could have been represented in a way so more people would actually play them. I wouldn't add any more nations to the game as independent nations. I don't think... I've thought this way for the last 2 or 3 years. We have a real issue in War Thunder right now, and it's been getting worse. And there have been steps towards making it better, but the issue is parity. Parity has been something I've been banging on about for years when it comes to War Thunder. And parity is the idea that everything across the board is equal for each nation, meaning that you have your own unique setup. Like, you have your own MB-Ts, you have your own AAs and all of that, but at least you have something, right? Instead of what we had previously, which was just a bunch of nations which just didn't have anything. Helicopters was something like this, right? Before, like, Sweden got helicopters and stuff like that, or France getting Naval, for example. So I don't think we should be adding any nations into the game, especially since they are going to have these problems, but worse than, you know, the other tech trees, because they're going to have even less technology to draw from, and everything going forward should be a sub-tech tree. Independent trees for War Thunder are only going to suffer, because right now you have 3 nations in the game that I would even hazard to guess something like 80%, or maybe like 70% of the player base play. You know, like, you know, the big 3, USSR, Germany, and America. I honestly believe that the vast majority of the player base do not play anything else. And the reason why I say this is because the vast majority of event rewards, vast majority of premiums, vast majority of content is tailored around those 3 nations. Even if you don't think it is. And I know they do the excuse of, oh, well, you know, like, you know that these are the nations that built the most. Not Germany. Definitely not Germany. Like, they just didn't build, like, the most, especially during certain periods of their history. So, like, the idea of that is a bit nuts to me. But the main thing is they're going to be tailored towards, and all you have to do is not just look at not just specifically look at what people play, just look at the discussions that people have all the time. And it's never about, like, vehicles or nations which are not those top 3. Recently we've had people talking about the Vidar, right? And how overpowered it is. That's been the first time for a long time that somebody has even brought up a nation which isn't one of the big 3 when it comes to discussions, right? And that's because it's seen as broken. Hey, Speed Trees, nice to see you. So all you just got to do is follow just the general, you know, talks that people do. And because of that, if you add another nation into the game, especially one which would have a lot of stuff which is from other nations that already exist in the game, nobody will play it. You'll have a small group of individuals who will touch it, and it'll be like 1 or 2% of the community, and nobody else will touch it. Because even if people have ties to it as a nation, now let's say they're from that area. Like, let's say you pick, like, Yugoslavia, right? If you add that as an independent nation, then you're just going to have a bunch of people who are going to turn around and they already invested in other trees. So what's the point? They're not gonna restart a tech tree. Independent trees are negative for the player base. I'm getting AA'd on the airfield. Because you have to worry about crew skills, you have to worry about lineups, and you know you're just gonna go up against better vehicles anyway. So it's not really a good idea, in my opinion. So then we have Andrew Fitzsimmons Evans. Hey Tech, hello. I know that most people hate night battles, but don't worry, they added this new rainstorm effect to the maps that is basically Night Battles 2.0 because we asked for that. And also Tech, there is no way the T90S will stay at 10-3. I have a bad crew and it's not spaded, and I'm still winning 1v4s. Well, if it has to stay at 10-3 because the other T90s at 10-7. Like if you bump the Bishma to 10-7, then you have a problem, because you have what we class as an M48 scenario. If you guys remember, the M48 was going to go down to 6-7 in the German tech tree, but it was going to stay exactly where it was in all the other tech trees that it was in, like the Chinese one and I suppose the Israeli one, but I think this was before Israel were in the game, but also America, right? They were gonna push it down, and the reason why they were pushing it down, which is something that I said and as usual people got fucking mad at, was the simple fact that it doesn't have the same lineup, because this was before the Marder existed. The Leopard was at 7-7. There was no Marder. There was no Weasel. And also, the stock experience of that vehicle was APCR. And still is, I think. So, because it had no lineup, and because they'd removed a bunch of the 6-7 vehicles from Germany, like, that vehicle was supposed to go down to 6-7. So, they didn't do it. They even like showed like why it was going down 6-7, because it was getting beaten up by all of these meta vehicles, because of course people were comparing it to the wrong vehicles, because that's what everybody always does. But yeah, they talked about the Conqueror, they talked about the Carnarvon, the Centurion, they even talked about like all these different vehicles that were just absolutely annihilating it, stuff like the IKV. And yeah, and instead of moving down the M48, they ended up moving down like 2 or 3 other vehicles, like the Leopard. And now the Leopard's at 8-0 again. So yeah, it's just one of those scenarios where you don't want to create an M48 setup, and if you put the Bishma up in BR, it doesn't have a lineup anymore. So then no one will play it. There's no reason to play the Bishma at 10-7. Because if you do, there's nothing you can actually run with it, I don't think. Because all of the bangers are at 10-3. The Stormer, the Vickers, the Challengers, and then aviation-wise, like, is there anything at 10-7? Oh, the Jaguars at 10-3. Yeah. You'd basically just never see it, because everyone would just play 10-3. Even the new Harrier's 10-3. Oh, you got the Squadron Harrier. Nice. Wonderful. The German M48 being 6-7 would be silly, since it would be meta. Well, this was a different time in War Thunder's history. Not now. The game's changed a lot since then. But that was a few years ago now. So yeah, if they bump it up, then there'll be questions asked why the standard T90 is at the BR that it's at, and also where does the lineup go. And we have Kiwi Flyer 500. There are Kiwi vehicles like the NZ LAV, the A4K, and the MB-339. Well, we talked about the MB-339 earlier. Would adding these Britain to be a positive or negative thing? Don't forget the P-51s, Vampires, Dauntless, Buffaloes, Avengers, Mozzies, Canberras, Strike Aircraft, RNZF, Helis, and they're all exports, but for most part, they would add something spread in. Sorry for being so long. You don't have to apologize. It's good for the lips. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with them being added. Like, you know, it doesn't really matter to me. We talked about the MB-339 before, though. Like, so I would have a specific issue with that. But at the same time, I don't think that would be a huge issue. The NZLAV, I don't even know what does that have on it? Is it just, does it have the Bushmaster? Is that what it is? It's just a Kiwi LAV2, got a Bushmaster? I mean, yeah, fair. But they can add that. I won't mind. Right. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't add them to their own tech tree, but I would be completely fine if they wanted to add them to whoever. You know, whichever place it fit in, whether it was like event vehicles or whether it was like other stuff. I always think it's better, as we've talked about, to have these vehicles than not, and having them in the tech trees would be nice. Bolstering lineups as they go. And for vehicles where they're already in the game, camouflages, to be able to kind of show off those countries is always nice to see. So we have Zergers, War Thunder Fails, JB7MW. Hell of a name. Very catchy. Killing someone in a tank and having them immediately get full sweat load and cast to kill you is so annoying. I think they need to give cast a timer or a spawn limit so it can't keep getting spammed. So I've talked about this previously in the past and how I see these things, right? So let's say you're on the ground, you're tootling along in your vehicle, in your tank, and you kill somebody. At that point, they get in a vehicle, and then they bomb you. So in that scenario, you've already killed them, so you're 1-0 up, right? You're 1-0 up. You won't always be able to, or you won't always run into people who spawn into cast, but let's say you do. So you're 1-0 up in that scenario, then you have time to be able to do other stuff on the battlefield while they're coming in to use cast, and then they kill you. So now we're in a 1-1 scenario. So at this moment you're equal. So even though it feels kind of annoying that you got cast, you are equal with the person who you know, killed. Now that person can go along to do, you know, better things. They could bomb other people. They could annihilate different people as they go. That's definitely a possibility, and I'm sure will happen with some people. But they could also do nothing. But let's just keep it on, you know, this specific scenario. So in this specific scenario, it's 1-1, and now you have the advantage by either countering the person or picking something to counter them, right? Or, you know, picking something that fits the battle. So because you won the initial engagement, it has given you more opportunity to be able to pick the vehicles that you want to be able to carry the game with. If you get cast. If they don't cast you and they miss, then it's 1-0. Technically 2-0. And then if you actually kill them, like if you've been killed previously, then it's 2-1. Or if you get in the cast and, you know, they die, then you can still create a 2-1 or a 3-1 scenario with what you are packing. So the key thing as always when it comes to these things is making sure that you have lineups which are balanced enough so you can counteract what's happening. And if you get cast, especially by somebody you've already killed, you're technically already in the ascendancy because you can now react to what they did. That's how I see it. You know, I know it is annoying to get cast, but I always see like it in that setting. And I know it's slightly different for me. Like when I play, especially when I play specific vehicles like the 2S1, where it just becomes like a bomb magnet or a machine gun magnet. And you know, it's very different compared to other things. But yeah. That's the way that at least I see it. Then we have Bam Bam once again. Now that LOSAT is coming, I think the Humvee or the Bradley variants will come. I mean, they usually test ideas through events, right? So, they usually test new ideas of weaponry and stuff like that through events. They did it with the Bullpup. They did it with the Fire and Forget ATGMs recently. They've done it with a bunch of different systems. The only question I have is has any other country made a kinetic penetrating missile? Like, or even a kinetic penetrating rocket. I know for helicopters, there's that like one. There's like that weird one for like certain ones, and then there was also that other one from that other nation. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like really thin rockets. They're supposed to like dart into the vehicle. Israel has it? Oh, well, there you go then. That's kind of interesting. I suppose Israel kind of has everything. They're pretty stacked when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, it might just be them testing out the mechanic, and then they might, you know, push it in different areas. You mean the liquid explosives on the S13OF? No, it's on the Italian heli that got removed, the Turkish one. They have like a rocket which you fire from miles away, and it technically works like a missile, but it's a rocket because it's fired by trajectory and can't change trajectory in flight. But yeah, if the mechanic works and everything goes well, I'm sure we'll see more of it. What I always hope when it comes to light vehicles in general is that, or just vehicles in general, you get standard tech true equivalents. It kind of made me sad when they went through that phase of adding in like a metric ton of like, was it rank 5 and 6 event light vehicles for the US? Because I was just kind of waiting for them to add one to the tech tree, but they just never did. Let's see. The Hydra upgrade kit to make it laser guided? Yeah, probably that one. It's the one which, as I said, it's the one which is on the Turkish vehicle. Like, cause that one relies a lot more on like speed and not overall explosive mass, right? Where the Hellcat is much more just, or not the Hellcat, the Hellfire is much more just like bang bang. We're gonna absolutely rail you with explosives. Cause that mechanic got added in like a little bit, like on a premium, and then they added it for a bunch of other stuff too. Then we have Red Ned. Just so you know, Tech, the ordnance chart from 142.44 is gone. At least the Aussie Mantis one is. I believe there's another one though. Why is it gone? That kind of sucks. I know that Zabi has a ordnance chart. I don't know what it has on it though. Zabi's definitely a person to follow when it comes to like War Thunder stuff. the amount of basically like free labor he's put in to be able to keep the community informed on so many things is just insane. And it's once again just a straight credit to him. Oh, did I just use the wrong vehicle? I just used the wrong vehicle. Goddamn. Oh wait. Yeah, the Sirit things. These ones. Oh. These ones that you like, fire from miles away, and then they kind of guide themselves in. Those odd things that nobody really uses. Alright. We can still get the M8 AGS production variant of the XM8. But to be honest with you, I don't want to see it anymore. I don't think they built it, or I don't think it's in, is it? Didn't they, like, sign the contract recently? That thing has been, like... That whole contract has been up in the air for ages. So we have emergency broadcast system. Oh boy, here we go. I'm very disillusioned with the updates. They've done a lot to improve the game since the roadmap started, and it's objectively better now than before, but my desire to play the game is at an all-time low. Before the update, I was really playing maybe about 1 day a week, other than just logging in every day, but now I don't want to play at all, really. I think I'm just fed up with Guardian's dishonesty and literally everything they do. The main complaints I have recently is with the reorganizing of the tech trees on the forums. After they posted the planned tree for feedback, they received lots of opinions. The majority of what I saw outside the general blind praise was comments on how majority of the changes didn't make any sort of sense. This led to several people making examples of a reorganized tree that they did themselves, along with the lengthy posts about all the changes that should happen to the proposed reorganization. The result of this overwhelming amounts of feedback that was mostly critical was 6 changes and the long list of lies and contradictory excuses as to how basically all the suggested changes would be impossible to implement. And after ignoring another long thread of people calling out the nonsensical reasoning, the update was delivered. Let's go here. This sort of behavior is very similar to how Gadget operated before the roadmap and review bombing, and honestly, I'm kind of just done with it. Either that, or maybe I finally broke my addiction. What do you think this means for the future of the game, if anything? Will Gadget revert to their past selves, or did they never change in the first place? Well, the issue that I've had for many years when it comes to War Thunder, and also making content around it, is trying to get people to understand how the company functions. Because Gadget functions like every other company. The problem is that since most people do not have experience running a company, or do not have experience of what goes on at the high end of companies, and instead they have this fictitious, like, I don't even know, like TV show or mentality, or like movie show mentality of how businesses are run, where like everybody is just like sat there snorting cocaine and like nobody does anything, and the only people who are actually doing anything is like 1 or 2 middlemen who seem to like run everything, and then everyone else is just sat there going, ha ha ha, look at my paycheck, right? Like the fact is, this doesn't actually happen like in real life. There are companies which do that, and guess what? They go under very, very quickly. Or they were around in the 80s and just completely breaking a metric ton of financial rules, or they are backed by mobsters. So like, such as there's a Netflix documentary called Untold. I think it's The Trashers, and it basically follows like the creation of a AHL team, a hockey team, called the Something Trashers. And it basically follows the fact that it was created as a money laundering operation to recycle money that was got from the mob in the area from a local binman company. Yeah, literally Sopranos in real life. Hey Teddy, nice to see you. Like they believe the Sopranos was actually based on the story because it's so close to it. So I've tried for many years to just kind of sit down and discuss how these decisions are made on a micro level and also on a macro level when it comes to companies. And the first thing that always has to be understood is no matter what you believe or what you think or why you think a company is making a decision, there will be several other factors that you have just not considered at all because it's impossible for you to consider. Whether it be personnel issues, whether it will be financial issues, whether it will be like certain data sets that are just not available to anybody else. Like the amount of data that these guys have on pretty much everything is just nuts. And then also the personal opinion, or maybe specific biases, or anything like this, right? There is just or even just time. Like maybe something's ready to go. I did see you, Bread Like Sputter. I said hi earlier. But it could just be a time thing. Like, oh, we've got to release this thing now, but we only find out now that there was a problem with it. Or maybe the source that we used was wrong, but we still have to chuck it out the door, right? Like, these decisions happen. And you'll only find out about them like 5 or 10 years down the line because somebody screwed up somewhere. But the simple thing is, with the research changes, they were there to make it easier to grind through the tech trees. They did that. And also, they outlined a lot of the decisions and a lot of the reasons why they made those changes. But just because you don't agree with them doesn't mean that they, you know, are wrong or disingenuous or lying or anything like that. It just means that you have a different criteria that you're looking at it from compared to them. They value different things more than other people do. And once again, they're not going to tell you everything that they value, because once they do that, people, what ends up happening? People just start trying to second guess every move that's made. And then also at the same time, if something is done for a reason outside of, you know, the reason that they've given previously, then they just get pillared against the wall. Literally the Leo 2 PSO. One of the Guardian employees on the sneak peek stream, I think it was Mike, he said that the reason it wasn't coming to Germany, the Leo 2 PSO, was because it has not been in German service. Right? Now that could be one of the reasons why it isn't in the tech tree, but it's a very poor reason, because as we know, there's a bunch of vehicles in the German tech tree that the Germans never use, such as the TAMs, right? Or anything like that. Oh, sorry, yeah, the KF-41. The KF-41. So, you have these scenarios where you can have multiple reasons why something happens, but there's only one which is allowed to be public. Because if they listed all of the other reasons, you would get mad at them. And unfortunately, a lot of those reasons are to do with money. Why has the KF-41 come to the Hungarian tech tree before it has come to the German tech tree? Reason number one, Hungary uses it. So, no matter what happens, it should be in the Hungarian tech tree. Does Germany produce it? One of the companies in Germany produces it, so there is a chance that it could come to Germany in the future. Why does it not come to Germany now? Because they want to promote the Hungarian tech tree. Because they want to get people to play the Hungarian tech tree. And if you put it into the German tech tree, where people have already had access to a lot of that tech tree, or a lot of those vehicles for the longest time, people are just going to play it in the German tech tree. Right? That's literally why. There's no other reason. But they can't say that. Because if they come out and word it just as I did, then you know that there will be a lot of people who only play Germany or don't want to grind Italy or don't want to grind Hungary to get the vehicle, who will lambast them. And you know why I know that? Because over this past month, there has been a metric ton of those types of people who have been doing it for much crazier reasons than that. Which is why I've said a few times that sometimes Guardians should honestly just shut their mouth. Like, they don't need to explain everything because they can't actually give the proper set of reasons why they're doing something. And it sucks. Because then when I come along and like explain the other reasons which they can't say for some reason, because, well, they'll get pillared, then I just get pillared for it, even though we all know it's true. It's just a silly situation at the end of the day. So yeah. Now, also, you have burnouts, and also you have people's, like, you know, people's wishes and wants change, and also it's been an incredibly busy period in, like, War Thunder's history the last, like, 2 years. Like, I personally have kind of found it as well, where I haven't been burnt out at all, but I definitely have been wanting to play other games because of the fact that they have just straight up not had a gap in content setups for about 3 years now. And that, at the end of the day, makes people want to leave. Like, it's first of all, it does definitely mean that people stick around a bit longer in the short term. But in the long term, it means that a lot of the people just get straight up sick of it. And the moment they break that cycle and they leave, then they don't come back because they feel like they're missing out on a bunch of stuff, so why bother? It's a tough time. Like, it's as simple as that. And we have Cat Top. With the naval progression changes being out, it's clear Gaijin doesn't know what they want to do for naval. It could have easily been rearranged better, like who thought the Arizona is a better ship than the Texas? Why was the Texas a turret farm ship placed separately from the other turret farm design ships? The jump from light cruisers to battleships in both lines is just why? The US Blue Water Fleet is just sad. But at least the current progression won't stick. Like everything else in naval, it's not going to matter because they're going to change it again. Only this time, it's going to take years instead of months, like for damage models. Yeah, I don't really get a lot of the changes, really. I mean, the reason why they didn't folder the Texas is because it's a new vehicle, right? And they want people to grind it, and they want to grind it at full price. Just like the reason why the Leo 2 PSO is higher than the 2A6. Like they the simple thing is that they just want people to fully research it instead of paying half price. If that makes sense. There we go. Sadly, PR isn't that simple. Oh, I agree. But like, just like marketing, I think PR is also absolutely awful, and I really despise how the mind works, like, or how most people's minds work. I'm sick to death with the fact that marketing has to basically lie to people in order to get them interested in a product, but not fully lie to them because otherwise they'll realize you're lying. So instead, you just have to not fully tell the truth about the product. And then PR is just making excuses for why they have to do that. I hate the whole system when it comes to marketing and also general relations. It's awful. Like, it's absolutely trash. It's terrible. As just a thing to work in, and a thing to understand, and a thing to look into, it's disgusting. Because it's all about just manipulating people's minds. That's it. Which is why I fundamentally don't like a lot of the YouTube stuff, or the Twitch stuff, or just general business stuff. Like, it makes me feel awful that is what it ends up being. You know. But yeah, I think the progression changes also they're bringing in, which is probably like the progression changes that they're bringing in. They really feel like they're about to add in like more lines to a lot of the tech trees now. I just wish they would add in something for Blue Water, which is very similar to how helicopters and ground work. They should have a button where you can grind out coastal vehicles with blue water vehicles. Just because of the fact that now, especially more than ever, there's way more reason to play blue water than coastal, especially after the changes. Sweet dreams, bread likes butter. Have a nice rest, man. So then we have Sebastian Fanzelt again, I think. How about you talk about Naval, its good things, bad things, problems, so on. Or about what you think War Thunder will look like in the future around 10 years from now. 10 years? Brother, that's a long time. I have no idea. I think in the future, when it comes to what War Thunder will look like, they'll just keep adding more and more, specifically aviation high-tier vehicles, because that's the area of the game that has the most to expand. Naval, they're gonna add submarines, they're gonna add carriers, they're gonna add missile destroyers, they're gonna add all of those things, right? Like they're all coming, like, and the game will just continue to expand over and over and over again. We'll go through the same cycles we always do. The only difference is they're gonna have to find a way of bringing in a new game mode which people will be more into. But the idea of looking a decade ahead in time, I mean, I probably won't be here in a decade, right? Like, I'm amazed that I'm here after a decade. Like, so it's very hard to work out how that's all gonna go. I mean, I talk about, out of pretty much every CC that exists, I think I talk about the Naval the most out of all of them. Like, you know, I cover all the stuff on the dev server, I cover all the changelog stuff for Naval. I have a metric ton of Naval stuff spaded, you know, I'm literally playing Naval right now. Naval, when it comes to like content stuff, is actually detrimental because less people want to watch it, and also at the same time, it's one of those game modes that most people find boring because, you know, you don't have to, like, you know, continuously think about what you're doing. So what ends up happening is, like, that's why you don't see a lot of coverage of it. There's not really a lot that people do cover on it. The last YouTuber that I remember who was fully Naval focused, who had, well, not even a decent following, but more than, like, you know, a few thousand people, literally just went nuts. So, and now I think is just playing Enlisted all the time, which kind of shows the degradation of mental health. So it's just how it is. Like, Naval is one of those game modes that I think is fine. It works as it should. You know, there's nothing that I feel about Naval that is bad or poor. It's just a set of like games and a game mode which is good to relax in, shoot a bunch of targets, you know, not really worry about the world, and read a good book or listen to a TV show. It's a great supplementary game. It's like when people go to the bathroom and they play a mobile game. That's what Naval is. So if I have, like, I don't know, if I'm not streaming obviously, but if I have like I don't know, something that I have to do for work, or if I have to like work something out or listen to like a TV show or a movie or something, if I'm looking to chat about it, then sometimes playing Naval on the side is, you know, the best thing to do because you can just kind of chill and do it. Like, that's about it. The bots are bad and damaging for the mode. If you don't have the bots, then the mode doesn't exist. So it's as simple as that. Because there wouldn't be enough players to actually play. So then we have Ulfhed Tierson. What's your favorite rank 3 fighter, interceptor, strike, and bomber? Jesus. Well, it used to be the SP2C5 that was the best at all 3 roles, but they moved it down to rank 2. I'd have to look at all of the tech trees. The Typhoon is definitely up there, but for different reasons, for the CAS element of it. The B7A2 is probably my favorite rank 3 bomber, just because of its multi-role capability. There's a lot of bombers at the low tiers which do have some pretty nice bomb loads, like especially the British ones, but they're just a pain to play because they have no armament. The B-26 I think is rank 3, isn't it? If I remember correctly. So that one, maybe. That one's actually pretty fun. I'm trying to think of like a fighter. I mean, the G2 Trop was one of those vehicles back in the day, which I kind of learned how to fight in, compared to a lot of other machines. And I still go back to it from time to time now and play it, and it's still very strong. The P-47s are always nice as well, but, you know, they're not as in favor as many other ones right now. So that's probably something that I would change. Like I'd like to see some changes that are realistic to actually help out boom and zoomers and dive aircraft and all that, but say with you. Let's see. So yeah, I'd probably go for those. So B-26, Typhoon, B-7A2. Those ones always sound pretty fun to play, and you know, I've played them a lot in the past. And P-47s are always fun, and BF-109 G2 Trop. So we have multi-grade. Hey, Tech and Chat. I've been playing for a long time now, and I can't bring myself to play Sweden and Israel. Sweden Air is cool till they lose their traces at high tier. And Israel, well, there's nothing in it for me that says, ooh, look at me. Italy is now booming, and I'll give that a go, but why the heck don't they have traces at rank 6 is crazy to me. They should have a belt that has some traces in it, because the belts are stealth belts in Sweden. Thanks, by the way, for what you do. I learn something every now and then from hearing what you say and think. Peace. Oh, that's all good. Thank you for watching and enjoying. It's always nice to chat to new people. Always nice to interact. It's easily my favorite part of all this stuff. Isn't there something with Swedish vehicles with the whole they have like a system on their vehicles which is kind of like a tracking system, so that's why they use stealth belts. Like so instead of them needing traces, they have some kind of weird CCRP setup, right? But it also... So, stealth belts are belts that I kind of run on a lot of guns. And the reason is because I think it's very... Yeah, like some kind of gun radar, right? I think they have something like that. The interesting for me with like vehicles like that is I find them once you've mastered the guns to be really powerful. Like for example the Saab 105 and the SK and also the J32. So just to kind of show you what I mean, so the J32, even when it was at 9.7, we went 127 to 29. For the Saab 105, we went 73 to 7. That was this year. With, like, the other one, where is it? The SK. The SK60B, we went 56 to 3. And, you know, the vehicles worked really well. And I've always said it's much better to over-lead with guns than under-lead, which I feel like most people do. But I wouldn't let that stuff kind of put you off, because most of those vehicles are obviously like the high BR ones. A lot of them that you run into at the lower tiers don't have that issue of no traces. And also the ground lineups for Sweden are pretty nice. Israel, there's no point in playing their air stuff if you're just going to play their air stuff. Like, it's either the worst variants of vehicles that we already have, or just the variants of the vehicles we have, so, yeah. Do I have any negative KD on a plane? Yeah, the P108 Series 3, I think. Or whatever it's called. The big donkey one. I spaded that thing by trying to ground pound and getting shot. It was really nice. But I would honestly say that that those vehicles were really fun to play, even with the difficulties of aiming. So the only thing you can do is give them a go, right? Like see how it feels, see how everything goes, and leave Israel alone, though. unless you're planning to play the ground stuff, don't bother with that stuff. Then we have Max. Hey, TEC, it didn't work. I might need professional help. Lamau. Well, fair enough. ADHD, OCD, PTSD tests, and probably therapy for past trauma and friendships that needed. Yeah, sure, why not? Might as well get all the standard stuff done. See what happens. Hopefully it goes well. And hopefully you can, focus on that stuff. Just remember, there's no reason... What's the nicest way of putting these things? Sometimes there are reasons why people struggle with, doing either work stuff or doing this stuff or doing that stuff. But also at the same time, many people try and look for excuses for why they can't do the things that others are able to. So, like, for example, for me, I'm probably a little bit autistic and definitely have OCD in some areas too, especially when it comes to the work stuff I do. But that has never stopped me and has probably only been a benefit. So instead of labeling yourself as random things or random letters or needing somebody to tell you what you are or what you do, how about you just step the fuck up and actually stop trying to blame other things and just do do the things you need to do. Just stop trying to blame other stuff. It's one of the issues that we've seen constantly in life with pretty much everybody. It's always somebody else's fault. It was how I was born. It was my parents. It was this. It was that. It was whatever you want to bring up that day. And yes, it can affect you. Yes, it can be bad. But it doesn't matter because it all falls on your head anyway. Very easy to blame others, but it isn't their life that needs to be pushed forward. It is your own. So then we have John Gola. Is the update coming out tomorrow? I think this is probably the problem with doing weekly podcasts. Yes. Yes, it did, kind of, nearly. Also, I learned today what time blindness is. Essentially, they just can't be on time and have trouble following schedules. The new generation is fucked. Yeah, just remember, if you label everything, then it's okay. Don't ever hold anybody to account for anything, because being a human is hard. And for some reason, that only applies to some people and not others. I don't know how it works, but yeah. Right. Aliens raped our neighbor's cat the night I was born. That's why I'm weird. True. Alright. So then we have Mr. Jar Charles. It says, nice Shire. I wish. You want to see a cool pull like we did the other day? I'm actually out of the card packs now, but there is some more coming. You won't really be able to see it very well because of the green screen, but we have a shiny alt-art Frodo. So look at that. And then also we have a shiny Eagles. So, and also the best pull of the recent packs. Where is it? We have a signed full art Aragorn King of Gondor. So there you go. Pretty nice. But yeah, there's a few others, but I thought I'd show you those. What do I do for work? From Jerry. I don't really go too much into what I do for work, but basically, like, it's in the field of like scientific research. Mostly nowadays, it's kind of like blending architecture with science. So if somebody needs, let's say that you're like creating a factory, or you have created a plan to be able to build like a warehouse which is supposed to store specific things such as like chemicals or whatever. I'm the dude that you go to be able to build that in the most efficient way possible, and also at the same time taking into account where it's being built and also where the transportation needs to go for everything and how it's going to be stored and shit. So that's pretty much like right now what I do. I do a bunch of other things as well, like when it comes to like R&D stuff that I don't really talk about too much, and obviously that's not the whole compass of my job, but it's pretty fun. Works well for me, and that's what's important. Did I see a message? I thought you were going to bed. So then we have Johnny Trigger. Do you think we will ever get the Aramachian game? Why do you think they haven't added it yet? What? Right, okay. This is the third time I've been asked this. Who made a video? Hey Andrew, nice to see that. Isn't that called logistics? In a way. But there's other stuff involved too. Okay, who made a video on whatever Aramachi? This is the third comment about the Aramachis. So somebody obviously at the end of last week made a video about the AM-339. So there you go. And we have Nicholas the great Greg King. It's a bit of a, I don't know, my brain's not working. When are you gonna make the video of why Gaijin hates loves China? Well, now that the major update's out, that video series will continue. There's a few other stuff that I have to make first, like basically pertaining to specific nations and also pertaining to a bunch of other things. Ogre King? Who is Ogre King? Oh, it says Ogre King. My bad. Nicholas the Great Ogre King. There we go. Thanks. But yeah, so those videos will start up again probably in a few weeks. But right now I want to delve into a bunch of videos about specific vehicles. Like today, you know, obviously we did the Yugoslavia video because they added the Yugoslavian flag to the files, and then obviously we have all of the tongues that area speaks, which I'm not gonna name them, because whenever I name them, people get annoyed, because it depends who you ask on what they're bloody called, because there was a war and everybody's still pissed. Really enjoyed learning about all that. That was a really fun experience on my end. God damn it. But yeah, so anyway, when it comes to that stuff, that is, what's the word? They added all those languages to the files, and then they also added all the flags, so it's only a matter of time that they're gonna start, you know, pumping in those nations, whether it be like event vehicles, premiums, or whatever. And I really wanted to talk about the Samoa, which has a 6-pounder on it. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I did it. I talked about it in the video earlier on. So basically, in Yugoslavia, during the war, they had a bit of a tough time because they just got absolutely reamed by the Germans, and then got absolutely reamed by others. You know, during and after World War II. They're kind of like a middleman, unfortunately, and also were only a kingdom put together like after, I think, World War One, so they were a pretty early kingdom at that time, so definitely a bit rough for them. What's interesting to me about it, though, let's see. Oh, I know, Andrew, I know. I get that people do it to mock themselves, and that's all good. But yeah, it's just when it's actually affecting your life, then it becomes a bit of an issue. So yeah, during the Second World War, in order to fight the Germans, the Yugoslavian partisans actually nicked a ton of Samoas, and also a week ago, an MB-339 crashed in an airshow, by the way. Oh, well, there you go, then. That's what caused everything. That's why everybody's asking about it. Weird, innit? So the... What was I saying? So yeah, the partisans mainly because Germany used, I can't remember what the word is, but it's basically like they used foreign vehicles. Like it began with B. It was like Bloodverzeug or something like that. So they used a bunch of foreign vehicles to police certain areas because they didn't want to use their actual vehicles for obvious reasons. So they used stuff like R-35s and also Samura SMs to patrol areas in Yugoslavia. So what a lot of the partisans did is, well, they blew them up, right? Well, no, I mean, these comments are from like 6 days ago. I took notes. That'd be very surprising if it was from yesterday. But and also pretty much everybody online clickbaits now. Like it's just a given. Like you know, it is just part of the system if you want to financially gain. What's the word? What was I going to say? Yeah, so a lot of these partisans captured a lot of the Samoas, and also at the same time kind of destroyed a ton of them. So they didn't really have a lot to be able to modify them with. But also the British, because, you know, the British are always fantastic. What they ended up doing was they sent them AEC Mark IIs and also something else that I can't remember. It was some other light vehicle to use. And they took a 6-pounder from an AEC Mark II, which was kind of screwed, and they added it to a Samoa. So you literally have a Samoa SM with a modified turret, which has a 6-pounder gun on it. Hey Kieran, nice to see you. Does anyone have the links for the event vehicles? They're technically not in this version of the game yet. People have used and missioned them in. They're on the dev server, but they're not on the live server, which is why I haven't made videos on them yet. I didn't want to use and mission them in, and if they changed by the time that they got onto the thing. They'll be added by Monday or Tuesday. You saw firsthand what the effects of putting multiple ethnic groups that hate each other next to each other? Yeah, it doesn't seem to work very well. But yeah, so that's why we're doing that. Then we have Bob. Let's see. The answer to my riddle is the letter R. March and April have an R in the middle, but not at the beginning of the end. Wonderful. Love me some riddles. That's how I've seen people using them in test drive. How have you been doing? Oh, I'm doing good, man. Like, everything feels alright. Like, life's good. We're just doing the tech talk and getting through some stuff. And trying to get the Aramachi or whatever it's called. But that's why you're seeing them in test drives. So you're not seeing them in the hangars, I'm guessing. You're just seeing them in test drives. Because you can use a mission them in. What I'll do is, as I said, I'll make videos on them as they come out. And then... Or not as they come out, but when they actually get added to the files. Because there's just been too many situations in the past where things, like, completely change from dev server to live server. And I just don't want to Just don't want to screw with that right now. Hey, Classic J-Dog, nice to see you. Hopefully you had a good summer. Hopefully everything went well, man. Right. Did you hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Oh dear. I thought not. It's not the story the Jedi would tell. What even is the fucking Plagueis thing from, by the way? Darth Plagueis was a Darth Lord of the Sith. So powerful and so wise, he could use the Force to influence the midichlorians to create life. Really? They brought back the midichlorians, goddamn. He had such knowledge of the dark side that he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. I mean, that's pretty based. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some considered to be unnatural. He became so powerful, the only thing he was afraid of was losing his power. Which eventually, of course, he did. Unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, and his apprentice killed him in his sleep. Ironic. He could save others from death, but not himself. Well. Who is his apprentice? Also, thank you for the Prime subscription, Classic J-Dog. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much, man. Nice to see you. If you want to... So, you can't use the SB2C for the Americans anymore for bomber tasks, but you can use the SB2C5 for the French. So, just use the French one. Don't know why they did that, but c'est la vie. And then we have the last one, which is Swinty, which says, oh. So there you go. Fantastic. Oh, God. Right, so, do you guys have any questions? Obviously, to end the tech talk, is there anything that's on the mind? Anything that's around the place? Obviously, next week we have the event, which is going to be a little bit all over the place. We'll see what goes on with everything. I want to ask if you have any suggestions on how to play the new CV9030, because I'm struggling with it. You gotta play it as a passive scout, basically. So use the mobility to get to positions that are near the enemy, and then just scout everything. Hopefully your team cleans up, and if they don't, then you basically just set up and hope to aim for weak spots when you get the APF SDS, because before you get that round, you are completely useless. How long does the event last? 10 or 12 days, if I remember. It's like 2 weeks. It's just less than 2 weeks. It's like 8 days of solid grind, and I think there's like a 2-day buffer. So it's either 10 or 12 days. Opinion on bread and butter pudding? Very nice. A lot of those weird desserts and weird food that Britain has actually taste really nice, even though it looks really weird. That's Sidious, aka the guy with the nutsack for the face. Oh, fair enough. He was Sidious's granddaddy. What was the dude in the... What was the dude in the other one? What was his name? You remember him in the new ones? Was it like Slark or Snark or something like that? That one was just so random. I think that character there was like the epitome of that trilogy, where they just had no idea what the hell they wanted to do. It was crazy. Snoke. Yeah, Snoke. There you go. Good old Snoke. What a name. Long live the aftermath of World War II. What's your opinion on the Russian and German naval line? I'll be going down them as well as the RGN. The German one, I struggled with in the Blue Water setup, mainly because of the fact that their destroyers are once again just worse American ones, and also a lot of them only have HE. Like all those ones with the bigger guns, they actually don't have This guy is turning left for some reason. There you go. Be on your way. So, like, for example, the Z46, you can get a lot of damage in, but it doesn't actually do anything. So I'm wondering, with the changes that they've done to the way that damage works, and also to the way that, you know, certain systems work in the game, it might be a lot better now. Supreme's leader Snoke, true. The big fish. But yeah, we'll have to see what goes on with the naval stuff. The other one, the Russian line is generally fine. A lot of their destroyers have the ability to just one-tap things, which is quite funny. Like, because they have those 130mm guns, and also one of the vehicles. Is it 37? I always forget its name, but it's pretty much an exact copy of the 4-3 vehicle they have. But it's a 37, and I don't know why. And I never have understood why. But it's never moved when it comes to this BR. It's got the same guns, same mobility, same crew, same armor, same everything. It's just 2 BR brackets lower. And guess what? It was one of the easiest things in the world to spade. It was so weird. Like, I don't know. But we'll end the tech talk there. As always, if you have any questions about anything, make sure to leave them in the comments section of the video, and we'll go through them next time. Have a good week. Hopefully the event goes well for you. Peace be with you, and bye-bye.